create assets for my stream and my content in general, but I get the feeling that nobody really wants to watch me stream myself making those assets. Not only that though, but even I don't go back and watch my drawing streams anyways, unless it's just to write notes on what exactly I need to improve on and such. But at this point, I honestly don't care about how well I can make art, because simply put, I don't want to be an artist. That's not to say that I never did. I did want to originally be a comic artist when I was a lot younger, and I actually made my own comics and such. But as time went on, and eventually once I entered university, I wanted to become a scientist instead. But the difference between the comic artist, or being an artist and being a scientist, is that I still want to be a scientist, not because not because of the title, right? Or to get anything out of it, any kind of external reward, but just for the sake of, or just because the only reason why I want to be a scientist at this point still is just because I enjoy solving problems. And the current job I have involves me doing just that, solving problems for other people, helping them with issues and so on. And that euphoria, that dopamine hit of me being able to, solve an actual practical problem feels really good. Now, I understand that there's a lot of theoretical work in the fields of science as well, but I mean, you have stuff like mechanical engineering and chemistry that literally does involve practical applications of the laws of science. So there's that. And I got a coworker that wants to study kinesiology because he, just like I am, is an athlete. He's an athlete, I'm an athlete, and he just wants to do something relevant towards something he already knows he enjoys doing. Likewise, I do too. What field of science I want to get into nowadays, I'm not really sure, but I do want to do something that's, relevant towards practical application, but also can lead to theoretical work as well. But anyways, I just don't have it in me to be an artist. I just don't have the heart for it. I don't have the drive. And especially because of the Studio Art program, my terrible experience in that university program, I definitely don't have fond memories of making projects. I just don't. I groan and moan every time I pick up the drawing tablet and, do something, because it just brings back a lot of bad memories. It doesn't help either that because I went through the program, the art program, instead of a science or math program, if I want to become a science or math teacher, right now I just simply can't do it without extra help. Because the teacher certification program I'm in it's straight up, the program tells the members that they're not going to bother teaching that content area, whatever content area the members sign up for. So logically speaking, if I want to be a science or math teacher, there's just no way for me to do it. I can become an art teacher though, because I do know that content area. I do know how to draw, I do know how to paint, I do know how to make sculptures and so on. As much as I don't want to admit that. So, anyways, I'll be making assets and such, but that's going to be something I'm not going to stream anymore. And I might even just take down the drawing streams off my YouTube channel, that playlist. I just don't see any point, especially since all of them are just showing me drawing Knuckles over and over again. I don't think that's going to be interesting to anyone, let alone myself, in the future. So, there's that. Does this mean that I'm not going to do any of the other stuff I said I was going to do, like make short comics, or comics in general, or work on whatever other projects that I had told or asked other people online that I would make? I'll still make those projects. I mean, I still want to do those just for the sake of doing them, but the problem is that a lot of those people that I asked to do the project for, they too are digital artists, and because of that, right, I'm always having this idea in my head that my work is never going to be worthy of replicating whatever they're doing. Say, for example, and I've done this, right, I asked a popular digital artist if I could make fan art of one of their OCs. And they were nice enough to tell me that, I can't. They gave me permission to do that and all that. But that was probably 2 years ago at this point. They've probably forgotten by now. But regardless, though, their work is very, I wouldn't say very well known, but it's well known enough, right? And because of that, right, I feel like even if I did my best to make fan art of their OC, it would just never be worth the time, both mine and theirs, to look at it. But I get that that's not really the case. Some digital artists, like the one I mentioned earlier, still appreciate whatever fan art they get, and they're nice enough about it and such. They don't really care what the quality is most of the time. But it's just those negative feelings I have related to stuff like that. It just prevents me from wanting to work on stuff relevant towards drawing and painting, or making digital projects like that. It's not like video editing, where if I say I want to make a YouTube poop, right, or make a new video, right, showing me showing that involves me showing how to do something. Drawing doesn't compare to that, because I know for a fact that if it's an educational video I'm making, then someone at some point, inevitably, statistically speaking, will want to look that up. And I know I still haven't made that video showing off that thing I talked about before, related to the OBS flickering and all that. I haven't forgotten. I've been reminding myself to do it. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. But anyways, and as far as like making YouTube, YouTube edited videos goes, it's all about, for me anyways, it's all about what I think, putting stuff into the video that I think is going to be funny, right? That's going to make me laugh. That's going to be entertaining for myself. And therefore, it's not like drawing where, I gotta dread doing a project just because of this and that. When it comes to video editing, I've really started video editing when I was in grad school. And And thankfully in grad school, I had a much better experience in that program than in the studio art program. So I don't have the same negative feelings towards video editing as I do with drawing. Anyways, I've been going on for a long rant about this, but I guess my point is that I just don't want to make art related content anymore. Because I talked about this before too. I thought about trying to draw porn as well, make NSF, not safe for work content, but it's still everything I talked about when it comes to making any kind of art related project applies to that content and that not safe for work content as well. Like pretty much, even if I'm drawing like nudes and such, it still brings me dread because it's not that different from the work I had to do in those figure studies courses. The two figure drawing courses I had to take and that one figure painting course. Now granted in that figure painting course, there was a lot less, that one was better just because I had a different instructor and he was helping me out just because I actually proved to him through extra work I was doing outside of class that I was willing to improve. And I did improve. But yeah, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Like, drawing nudes isn't going to make me feel any better about being an artist or making art. So that's why I didn't want to bother entertaining that thought either. What else? I still do enjoy coding. I just haven't gotten around to doing it a whole lot. Mostly because the temptation to use very simple game engines is greater as time goes on. Games from Scratch, a YouTuber that also has his own website. He mostly makes content related to developing games, coding, programming, stuff like that. And on recently, he showed off a game engine that's, I think it's literally called RPG in a Box, where essentially it's based off of the Godot engine, right? It's built into the Godot engine, so it's not like it's a separate game engine in and of itself, but it's supposed to be a game engine where you literally just drag and drop assets and such to make an RPG as simply and as easily as possible. The ironic thing about that is I was trying to learn how to make an RPG through Scratch, and I got 2 videos showcasing that on my YouTube channel. Just showcasing some of the work I figured out on my own, as well as what stuff I've learned online. But I don't know about really close, but I'm getting to the point where I can make a gameplay loop and in Scratch anyways, and then just work on a actual 2D RPG in Scratch. I just make my own game on that. The reason I haven't gotten around to actually doing anything relevant towards that, or just making an official project, is just because I unfortunately have to draw assets for the game, right? And that means having to do stuff like animating and pixel art and so on, which circles back around to being an artist, right? Because unless I just borrow assets from some public domain or ask someone else to make the assets for me and I pay them for their work, unfortunately I just had to continue drawing. So it's this vicious cycle where I cannot ever seem to just get away from my past of being an artist, or an art student rather. It just seems like I'm just predetermined to, or rather, it seems like my career is predetermined to be an artist. And you may question why that's a bad thing. The fact of the matter is that it's just not something I want to do. I just don't want to be an artist. And you might be asking, then why did I why did I go through the Studio Art program then? There's a long story behind that, and I kept alluding to it in past streams. But essentially, the TLDR short version of the story is I didn't know how to be a college student, a proper college student, so therefore my grades reflected that when I was in the biochemistry program at the university I was going to. And I thought maybe it was just because, or my grades were falling rather because I wasn't in the right program or in the right major. So I kept switching between different fields. I was in electrical engineering, I was in computer science, I was in this and that. And eventually got to the point where I think it was electrical engineering was the last one. It was either that or computer science. That's when I realized that, maybe I was not cut out for doing that kind of work. Today, though, nowadays, I'm pretty sure I could have did it had I actually known how to be a proper college student. Because simply put, I just did not do the work as efficiently as I should have. I was not responsible enough to get the work done and just screwed around a lot. And when the grades were dipping, I blamed the system, right? I blamed the instructor's coursework, I blamed the textbooks, I blamed basically everything else but myself. Just because I didn't want to actually apply myself enough. Didn't want to actually sacrifice a lot of things that I used to have anyways, just to get the coursework done and get that degree. I had to learn the hard way through the Studio Art program. I kid you not, the Studio Art program was the only avenue I could have taken after that point because my GPA dropped so low. That is the only reason why I became an art student, and that is the reason why today I have a degree in drawing and painting. Instead of biochemistry, instead of computer science, what have you. So, if I could do it again, I would, and I would do things correctly, or at least better. And maybe I'll get the chance to go back to school and do things right and become a scientist anyways. But until then, though, I'm just learning what I can on my own. And, yeah. But anyways. Is there anything else I want to talk about before I end the stream? And as far as the theme of my content goes, originally back in 2019, I wanted to have this brand of myself being a fitness content creator. Pretty much any of the artwork and videos I was making, streams and so on, would be related to fitness, as well as speedrunning, Psychonauts. Eventually, because of grad school, I could not continue bodybuilding, especially because when COVID hit, that's when I literally could not do any bodybuilding because all of the gyms were closed. So that thing went away, fizzled out. And as far as speedrunning Psychonauts goes, I got a PB of 49 minutes and 55 seconds, if I remember correctly, in the any percent category. And the only reason why I stopped was just because I just did not have the patience to learn the frame perfect skip that takes place in the Meat Circus Mental World. Pretty much that trick is the only thing that was keeping me from getting faster PBs. And I realized that regardless of what kind of competitive game you're playing or what kind of competitive thing you're doing in general, because I learned this later on when I was training at BJJ, it sucks to constantly compare yourself to other people. And because I couldn't do that trick, I got tired of watching other Psychonaut speedrunners be able to pull that trick off like in 1 or 2 attempts. And I understand that even back then that they had a lot of practice in this and that, but I swore off competitive gaming before I was doing those speed runs, and it got to the point where I remembered why I swore off competitive gaming. It was just because of that feeling of being a failure, and the feeling of losing in general sucks. It really does. I know that sounds obvious, but when you're trying to make a career off of winning all the time at whatever competitive thing you're doing, whether it be combat sports, whether it be a ball game, say like basketball, or even competitive gaming, right? Speedrunning or fighting games. It really doesn't matter whether you win or not in that respect, because nobody's going to care about you as a player or as a competitor anyways if you lose more time or just lose a lot in general. And it brought my self-esteem down quite a lot, so in order to, for the sake of my mental health, I just had to quit speedrunning Psychonauts. Would I go back into it now since Psychonauts 2 got released, and would I be willing to learn to speedrun Psychonauts 2? I don't know. The only reason why I got back into fighting games in the first place and competitive gaming in general was just because I was training in BJJ before then, and I wanted to do something that was relevant to BJJ. In this case, it was fighting games because, martial arts and video games, martial arts and competitive sports, or combat sports anyways, pretty much go hand in hand as far as like the overall themes, not so much the actual like physical versus digital experience. But yeah, I mean, BJJ forced me to learn to accept that what it means to be a loser, or what it means to lose in general. And on top of that, it forced me to understand that you have to learn how to get better at something in order to win more frequently. So, because of BJJ, I gained the patience to lose, and therefore now when you watch me streaming BlazBlue or eventually Skullgirls or whatever other fighting game I happen to take an interest in, I actually have the patience to play 20 matches in a row and lose all of them because of BJJ. Anyways, so yeah, I'll be competitive gaming still. It's also just addicting in general. Once you do finally like get a glimmer of skill, or even when you get your first win, right? Say, because I've won a few matches recently in the last stream, right? When I was streaming BlazBlue, that was nice. That I felt good, but at the same time, though, and I said this on stream, it honestly doesn't really matter that much if, say, you're playing casual matches, right? In a ranked system, it means a lot more to win, because, or whenever you do win, because you actually have a status to prove, right, or to earn rather. It's the same thing in BJJ. You know, going from a white belt to a blue belt is a huge deal because you have to do quite a lot of learning and practice and even a lot of injuries just to get a blue belt. Right. And once you get a blue belt, like that means your shit don't stink. Like you actually know how to fight. At least white belts anyways, and just people in general. Well, most people. Because most people don't know how to fight despite what they think. But yeah, I'll be continuing to do competitive gaming and such, and I think that's where my content is heading towards. Don't get me wrong, I still want to continue doing these variety streams where I play different single player games that I played in the past. That's not going to go away, right? I'm still going to stream a lot of those kinds of games, but I think it's about time that I started to take competitive gaming, or have my career reflect that, streaming career anyways, reflect that. But who knows? Maybe I'll just get tired of doing that as well, and I'll just change my mind and continue doing this kind of content, but we'll see. The thing is that I see that people drop in to watch the fighting game streams, right? The Saturday SmackDowns. And those are typically the streams I get the most number of views on average. So it just makes sense that I should capitalize on it and such. But that's also a trap. I've seen a lot of streamers in the past few years pretty much have to deal with the fact that when they made their career out of playing a competitive game, any kind of competitive game, League of Legends, Street Fighter, Smash, Ultimate, whatever, right? They have to constantly be the best. And sometimes that's not as fun as just messing around with, all items on a random stage where, it's got danger zones or something like that. And if we use Smash Ultimate, for example. Or with League of Legends, I've especially seen a lot of League streamers either quit or took a really long break, Dyrus being one of the biggest examples, from League in order to just enjoy gaming again. And another streamer, Nightblue3, typically does not really care about being quote-unquote the best, unless it's like the end of the season, in which case, the rank matters and all that. But most of the time, his content revolves around him just playing against silver and gold players, and just doing some really weird builds and such, and trying to win these and those. But even he's admitted to being bored of doing that and wanting to do something else. The thing is, though, he can't quit making that kind of content because that's what his followers and subscribers want from him, right? And he makes that his full-time job. So literally, he cannot pay his bills if he doesn't continue doing the thing that he's tired of doing. That's the kind of situation I don't want to be in. So it's weird, really. I want to be a competitive pro gamer, but at the same time, though, I don't want to be stuck being in that being one for the rest of my streaming career. I know that that's not the case nowadays. You have a lot more streamers that do both casual gaming content and competitive gaming content. Good balance of both. Typically, though, it often clashes because on the one hand, you have half of your followers want one kind of content, the other half want the other, and it can. Most people, including myself, just don't have the patience to wait until the stream that you want to see rolling around. So, anyways, man, I've been talking for like good 40 minutes now. But these are just things that I've been thinking about for, I want to say, at least a month. And it pains me to say that I want to quit something because I've learned the hard way anyways, when I was an art student, to not give up on things, even if I didn't want to do them. In this case, I didn't want to be an artist, but I wanted a degree so badly that I just had to do the work. I had to make all those art projects. I had to write all those art history papers. And eventually, through sheer luck and determination, I finally graduated. Barely had the GPA high enough to graduate, but I did it. And therefore I just don't want to see myself quit on things. I think that's the one reason why I didn't say this earlier when it comes to making art content, is that I just didn't want to hear myself say I quit doing so and so. Or just in general, I just don't want to say I want to quit. Because I don't want to be known as a quitter. And I don't want to think of myself as a quitter. But the fact is that I'm not going to suffer any consequences for quitting on something like this. Unless, again, people ask me to do otherwise. Unless people ask me to draw or do drawing streams, I'm just not going to do it. Not unless it's relevant towards something I want to do. Like, for example, make assets for a 2D game in Scratch or assets for the streams. That I've not changed my mind about. But as far as like all the projects I've said I want to do for other people and the projects that I wanted to, that I've been working on for a good long while, like the series of Knuckles drawings, yeah, that I'm just going to stop. Just going to not even bother having the reference images anymore. It's not worth it. In my opinion, it's not. I mean, what is this? My third year of making content. Not streaming. I started streaming in late 2019, I think. Or early 2020. I think it was late 2019. But I opened up my first social media account and to upload content onto anyways in I think it was April of 2019. And that was the DeviantArt account that I set up during my final semester in the studio art program. Because I thought to myself, maybe I'll be making art for the rest of my life. But as is the case, I learned throughout 2021 anyways, or rather I learned after 2021 that That doesn't have to be the case. I don't have to be a nurse if I don't want to be. Especially if nobody wants me to. Like, I don't see anybody asking me to be one. So I'll still leave that command on for chat anyways, the !art command for people who do want me to make drawing content or to watch me draw while on stream. But if I don't get anybody doing that, just don't expect me to ever do it. So anyways, I think I've talked long enough. I might just cut this part of the stream, just cut it away from the gameplay, so that, and just, you know, label as an update video or whatever, like update on my content, this and that. One of those like videos that some content creators make, just announcing this and that, and just giving some news in general. Anyways, I think that's enough talking for stream. I really don't think I have anything else to say. No, I can't think of anything else. And of course, if I do remember something, I'll just post it on my Twitter. But anyways, until next time, peace.